Hi, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to have Sid Krofft on the show, the Plastic EP, and
Vicky show.
You have created the greatest television and shows that ever existed. And Australian children here from the 60s, baby boomers, there was nothing on it like it on television. And I've got to let you know this too, Sid. Australia had black and white TV up until 1975. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, I did. Actually, I did because I went to Sydney and Melbourne, and guess who I went with? I was the opening act for Liberace. That was the first time he came to Australia, and it was actually the last time because he did something at the airport that got him.
He got banned, did he?
Banned. Yeah. Yes, he did. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for many, many years. It wasn't his fault. It was one of my great show business stories because, I was also the opening act for Judy Garland and a lot of really famous stars. Yeah. And I only had a little puppet act, and that lasted over 20 years. I toured the world. I never came to Australia on my own. The first time was with Liberace and his big show. Yeah.
And Sid, we'd like to congratulate you on you and your brother Marty on receiving the Emmy Award for a Lifetime Achievement. How was that, and how did you feel about receiving that award?
Well, I got to tell you, it just blew me away. I don't know. I'm sure it blew Marty away too, because they only gave 45. And, there's so much talent out there. And to choose us, I know we had a real big career, and we gave children a lot of television, but to get a lifetime achievement, I mean, to get an award is a great honor, but to, get that honor, it's beyond belief, And we also, last February, we were the last ones before this crazy disease, crippled us all for a while, hopefully. We got a star on the Walk of Fame. Yeah.
Oh, and that was
last February. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Now, I got to salute you, Sid. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You're very modest, and I'll tell you why. Okay. The greatest shows ever came out were created by yourself and your brother, and you deserve the accolades. You've got no idea the imagination here in Australia, and I know what it was like growing up as a baby boomer. I can tell you, when the Banana Splits came on, there was nothing like it. When HR Puffin stuff came on, there was nothing like it. And kids here were going wild for your shows because you're such a pioneer, you and Marty, and to actually be here and see the shows on television, it changed the culture here. That's what you guys got to understand. It actually changed the way that children grew up because it opened their imagination at a young age. And I can tell you, we're huge fans. Show that, Vicky.
Well, thank you so much. That's very touching to me because, HR Puffin stuff was done over 50 years ago. And for people to take it with them all these years, and remember the songs, the characters, it's just, it's amazing. It just blows me away. And thank you so much. That is a great, great compliment. And I got to tell you something. Yeah. Australia, I love Bondi Beach, and oh my God, we went. I love Australia, and the people. Everybody was so kind. I love America too, but they could learn a lot from Australia.
Well, we can't wait to meet with you when you come next time to Australia.
Well, thank you. I can't wait. Yes, thank you.
What was it like doing the variety shows with artists like Donny and Marie Osmond and the Brady Bunch? Can you tell us how these shows were developed?
Well, what happened with Donnie Marie? Of course, we did at that point maybe 18 television series. And Fred Silverman was the president of NBC. And Fred Silverman, for some reason, just was fascinated with me because he said, "You are just from another planet with your ideas." And he said, "Do you want to know something? I got the phone call from him. He said, I just saw Donnie Marie. Marie is only 15 years old. She hasn't broken into show business yet, but Donnie was a huge teeny bop star at that point. And I just saw them on an afternoon show that came from Philadelphia. I don't even remember whose show it was." And he said, "I want to send you a copy and I want your opinion. What do you think?" I called him back and I said, "Wow, oh my God, you know what hasn't been done in a zillion years is Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney, the boy and girl next door." And he said, "Bingo." He said, "Would you, if we flew you down to Provo, Utah, where the Osmonds live, would you go and meet them and see if, you feel that you can come up with a show?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go there with a presentation." I still have that presentation.
Wow.
It's on a legal pad. So I did fly out there to Utah and I met with them. And the reason that I wanted the show to open up with ice skaters, because in 1949, next to Radio City Music Hall was the sister theater. It was called Center Theater. It was smaller, but it looked just like Radio City. And Sonia Henney, do you know who that was? Sonia Henney was the famous the first Olympic ice skater. And if you look her up, she did a bunch of movies in the 40s. Oh, yeah. Famous, became a famous movie star too. Well, it was her show. It was a Broadway show, but it was on ice. And I learned how to ice skate. They never saw anything like that. And as a matter of fact, the show was huge. There were 150 people in the cast. And the show, it ran a year. It was like a Broadway show. And I walked away with all the reviews because they never saw a puppet act on ice. That's how I started. Before all the television that you're talking about, I was the opening act for Judy Garland. I was the opening act for Frank Sinatra. I was the opening act for, Liberace. A lot of huge stars, Pearl Bailey, and you start naming them, because I played Las Vegas a lot. A puppet act. Can you imagine?
That's amazing.
Well, I'm working with David Copperfield right now. And David Copperfield, I never met him before, but let me tell you something about him. I've always followed his career right from the beginning. And he took magic, which, it was for little kids in their backyard. They'd have a birthday party and a magician would come, clown or whatever, and do a trick for them. Well, puppets were the same thing. They were for children, in the backyard for their birthday party. So I took puppetry into the adult world, and he took magic into the adult world. And as you know, he is the king out there and the most successful entertainer of all time. He he still has a show in Vegas, always sold out. He owns an island in the Bahamas, you know, and and he's done pretty damn well with his magic. Let me tell you. And so, and I guess I did pretty good with my puppets too. I can maybe take a little tiny bow. I'm not on an ego trip.
Yeah.
This really is unbelievable that we got the Brady Bunch on television, and then you come up with the idea, let's do variety hours. Now, those variety hours with the Brady Bunch are spectacular for the time. I mean, people, even here in Australia, they love the Brady Bunch so much that I can tell you that the variety shows were even better than the normal shows because you saw them dancing, you saw them singing, you saw them wearing the gear, and it was like something no one's seen before. And I got to take my hat off to you about those.
Well,
specials.
thank you so much. See, so for Donnie Marie, we had ice skaters. For the Brady Bunch, we had swimmers because Esther Williams, the famous Esther Williams, was a friend of mine. And so that's where I got the idea to do, swimming, ice. We did another show. The whole show was on roller skates, So it was, what ideas are hard to come by, creativity. And we don't steal from each other, but everything's been done before, everything, and it's the way you approach it. It's the direction that you take. The first movie that I ever saw in my life was in 1939, believe it or not, opening day in Providence, Rhode Island at the Majestic Theater. It was The Wizard of Oz. 1939, I'm 10 years old. And after the movie was over, can you imagine a 10-year-old kid seeing a movie in color like that? It was my first movie, so I never saw black and white. Forget that. And when I left the theater, I knew that I couldn't be a munchkin. I was too tall. I knew that, I knew even at 10, and I knew that I didn't want to be an actor because I was very shy as a kid, living in a world of fantasy, even at 10, because there was a couple that lived above us. They were a French couple, and an Irish couple, and they didn't have any kids, and they adopted me, because I was a dreamer. Like, they loved that, and so, and I knew I wanted to be somewhere in the Wizard of Oz world, in that world. And that's where all my creativity came. We never know where life is going to take us. Come on. I was a little puppet act. how far could you go? Yeah. And then I was asked, out of all the thousands and thousands of performers out there, Judy Garland was the biggest star on the planet, right? And she was going to open in Las Vegas live, and she was looking for an opening act, and I was chosen to be her opening act. That alone just blew me away. I couldn't believe it. Me, and I hadn't worked even Liberace. That was after Judy Garland. I just got back from Europe, and as a matter of fact, before I got the Judy Garland show, because I was gone for like 6 years touring Europe with my act, I couldn't even get a job because I was forgotten, a forgotten act. You're right, and it was Jack Benny that, you know who that was?
Yeah, of course. I know Jack Benny.
Yeah, Jack Benny saw me in a show in London, and And he approached me after the show and he said, I would love to bring you back to America because I'm doing a special. And one of your marionettes, it was an ugly ballerina. And he said, and her name was Kikina in the Shinska. Okay, yeah. And he wanted her to dance with Jacques D'Amboise. Jacques D'Amboise was the premier dancer in the world in the New York City Ballet. And he wanted the marionette to team up with, that meant I had to work on bridges, to get out of the picture because Jacques D'Amboise was going to do lifts with her. And we were going to do a little piece of Swan Lake, And so he brought me back to America and I did that show, and then I couldn't get a job. And then he was at a party with Judy Garland, and she must have said, and her husband, Sid Luft, she said, I'm going to Vegas. I'm excited about it. It's going to be the first time I'm going live. And I'm looking for an opening act. And Jack Benny said, oh my God, wait a minute. This kid that I brought back, I hope he's still here, staying at the Chateau Marmont. Yeah, that's who you got to get. And I got a phone call from Sid Luft, her husband, and asked me if I would audition. And I said, I've never auditioned in my life. As a matter of fact, in 1953 or 4, I did a command performance for the Queen. A Night of 100 Stars command performance.
Oh, wow.
They let you do 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes, that's all. There were 100 performers. It was for her charity, and it was like a 5-hour show at the Palladium, right? I wasn't even really asked, but somebody fell out, and a few hours before, I got a call from because I was already in a show in London in Piccadilly, in a club. It was a show called Pink Champagne, and it was adult. It was like bare bosoms show. What did they call those kind of shows? Tits and ass, right?
All right.
That's it. That's it. You tell them, Steve.
Yeah, that's what they call them in Las Vegas. And I said, I never auditioned in my life, I just did a command performance for the Queen. He didn't know 2 minutes, Big. Yeah.
Well, you certainly had great opportunities in your lifetime.
Yeah, go ahead.
Your shows were shown in Australia in the late 60s, 68, 69.
I know they did, and they were a huge success.
Yeah. What was the feedback that you were receiving from Australia back then about your shows? What were the networks telling you, the audience?
No, we knew. No, wait a minute. Puffin Stuff didn't come out until, wait a minute. Yeah.
69.
69. That's when it came out.
Right.
And, it was a huge hit because of Jack Wilde, because of Oliver. That's what got the attention. And of course, the kids never saw anything like it, what you said. And, and it was like, it was a swipe from the Wizard of Oz, if you really look at it. Instead of a girl, I had a boy, and I've always been fascinated with plants and nature and animals. And to me, everything is living, everything. Of course.
I've got to say something there, if I can, about HR Puffin Stuff now that you touched on it. I mean, where does a child see trees that move and move their eyes and move their hands, right?
Yeah, well, Living Island. It was
unbelievable, Living Island. But I also got to say, the Bugaloos were very big in Australia, right? And the Tranquil Forest. That was like the first show. First, you had the Banana Splits, right? You came up with the characters and their designs of the clothes.
That's what got us into television,
Unbelievable. But you know what it is? I got to tell you, Sid, You are actually pop culture. Your shows live forever in pop culture. And I got to say, Banana Splits, they got so many fans of that show. Every single day I go to groups on Facebook.
Huge, huge. And
HR Puff and stuff. Same
yeah,
thing again. The Bugaloos, Lidsville, Sigmund the Sea Monster,
monster.
even
Land
Land of the Lost.
Lost.
These things
Yeah.
are embedded in pop culture. They're never going away. They're that
you know
great.
what? TV Land Awards. They had every year they have a big award show, and they gave us the Pop Culture Award. That's crazy. And we received, and they did they spent $500,000. They did a big number saluting all of our shows. Oh, it was amazing. Just amazing. And they didn't tell me they were going to do that. They wanted to surprise me. Of course, we were there to receive the award only. And then suddenly, Will Farrell was there to introduce us, and it was an amazing night. But when you say pop culture, we got the award. So
fabulous.
So just live with it, okay?
You know what it is, Sid? I got to say something to you. You know how you were telling me about the Wizard of Oz, and you wanted to be somewhere in the Wizard of Oz?
Yeah.
Let me tell you that you actually went over the rainbow. You know the song where it says somewhere over the rainbow? No, I'm serious. And not only did you go over the rainbow, you took everyone with you along for the ride. You took everybody's imagination and took us all there. And that's the truth.
Well, you're just giving me the biggest head right now. No, thank you so much. What a great compliment. I mean, to compare me with one of the biggest movies ever made, and isn't it crazy? I ended up working with Judy Garland, the first movie that I saw. Judy Garland. And it's not like I only worked with her for one engagement. I did a whole national tour with her for a year. We and that's when my brother joined me. It was the last because my brother he was, I think, maybe 18 or 19 years old, and I needed an assistant because my assistant quit because he got a better job or something. I don't even remember. All I remember is I was pretty pissed off that he quit. And so I sent for my brother, who was at that time a used car salesman at 18 years old or whatever, and he was my assistant. He knew nothing about puppets. My whole family, I didn't come from a family of performers or anything like that. They had no clue. I built my own empire as a kid, It's insane when I look back. And my dad, the first puppet that I wanted, I went to him. I saw an ad in a comic book, the first Superman comic book. There was a marionette, and they wanted $3.95 for it. I went to my dad, and he said, "First of all, you're a boy and you want a dolly?" He called it a dolly. And then he said to me, "That would feed your family for weeks. That's a lot of money." So he of course didn't get it for me. But in that comic book, there was an ad for if you sent away for 100 Christmas cards and you sold that box for 50 cents, you could keep a nickel. And so I did. I'm 10 years old. I sent away for this box. I went in the street after school and sold my Christmas cards, and I saved $3.95. It probably took me 4 or 5 months, right? So that's how I started in the business. And then when my father saw that I was making 50 cents a day and being a street performer, 75 cents a day, then he became my manager. Because that was, and that's how it all started. Yeah. Because
Unbelievable.
that was
Now,
a
Sid, I've
lot
got
of,
to tell you, I've got to take you back because this really is fascinating for me.
yeah.
You and Marty tend to be on the thing, a project that's always ahead of time, right? In other words, you're pioneers and everything you do is basically before its time. And I'll give you an example. I rate your super show, the Krofft Saturday Super Show, is one of the best and biggest shows for kids ever made. And I'm fascinated how you got the Bay City Rollers involved in those shows, if you can tell me.
Yeah, what happened was, of course, we lucked out with big time with Jack Wild, who was English. And then we auditioned. We went back to London and auditioned for the Bugaloos. And it was Lionel Bart who wrote Oliver, a friend of mine, who really helped us choose the Bugaloos. But this is something that you haven't heard. On the last day when we chose the finals, because there were 4,000 kids in February, it was freezing cold in London. And I used to bring hot chocolate out in the street for the kids, really worried about them, waiting to audition. And it was Mick Jagger that came in and chose the Bugaloos, the finals, and nobody knew that because he was in the recording room, and you can't see in, but he can see out, and so and then we lucked out so many times, that we wanted the Bay City Rollers because the kids loved English. They loved their accents. And the Bay City Rollers, really, to tell you the truth, couldn't handle it. They came here, we brought them here, and they just weren't really professional enough to handle the show. It was hard for them to take direction. They didn't understand that. And so we had a little problem with them, but they delivered. Bay City Rollers were going to be the next Beatles. That didn't happen for them, but I think it was their attitude, that maybe that's why it didn't happen for them, because they just didn't give their heart and soul. They were a group, but they were apart from each other. It wasn't one togetherness. There was something. I remember that. But they were cool kids, and they were only kids, so they didn't understand what a show could do for them, because television is the most powerful tool, more powerful than any movie we see, because more people see a flop television show than they see, a movie. It's amazing. It's amazing how you can become a star with maybe 4 lines. Suddenly you're a huge star. That the audience just captures that person, and takes them into stardom, right?
Sid and Marty are big stars, and I got to say, working behind the scenes and what you did to create that out of your imagination. As I said to you, it's not like you do one show and you stop. You're continually doing shows even now, and you don't stop. Like they redid The Land of the Lost and whatever, and you're coming back stronger than ever. And I take my hat off to you, Plastic EP and Vicky, take our hats off to you and Marty, because the love we have for you and the shows and everything you've done in your life It's like I cannot even start to tell you the greatness, but it's not the greatness. You're a very humble person. But what I want to ask you this, Sid, when you look back on your catalogue of work and everything you've done, can I ask you, what do you and Marty want to be remembered for? Can you tell me that?
What do we want? I'm only speaking for myself, because Marty can answer that question. I can't answer it for him. Marty is the business end. I'm the creative end. And so it's two different worlds that we live in. I get a dream and Marty gets it done. Hopefully, I mean, you can't guarantee anything, but I got to tell you something that you just said to me. And I'd like to tell everybody out there, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be 92 years old. And as you said, I'm still working. My mind is stronger than ever. And I'm so grateful every day when I wake up. And I'm telling everybody out there, don't even think about retiring, because that'll kill you. As harsh as that sounds, because when we have a creative mind, and we all do, every one of us, we got the same mind up there. It's just the way you use it, and I'm just telling everybody out there, just, keep it going, because that's what I'm doing, and I'm working on a huge, huge project right now. And oddly enough, with David Copperfield, and I can't tell any of you about it, or I'd have to kill you all. Yeah. So, and I don't want to do that. I've never done that before. And so I'm just saying, wow, it's a great compliment. And thank you so much, because, I know that we've done a lot. And the reason I'm on Instagram, and by the way, everybody out there, I go live every Sunday at 3:00, and I have a lot of followers from Australia, and I hear from them, puppeteers and actors, and people that are really interested in hearing my stories. And you know why I went on Instagram? Because I wanted to share my stories that are, to me, amazing, because I've made so many different, I've entered through so many different doors. I was given the blessing and the opportunity to, to be in burlesque, in vaudeville, in an ice show, in a circus, Ringling Brothers Circus. Can you imagine when the big top sat 15,000 people? Who ever experienced anything like that today? It's unbelievable. And, and I did movies and television, and I work for a company right now that's in Florida. They're called Magic Leap. It's something coming your way soon that, I was honored to be asked to be part of their creative team. They've got Peter Jackson, and they've got Spielberg and George Lucas and people like that. And they approached me. It just blew me away. I said, I don't know what I can give you, but evidently they saw something somewhere. And
you're a great talent.
No, and I don't want to be sounding like, I'm on an ego trip or anything like that, because that's far away from me. I'm just one of you guys out there trying to accomplish something, in life. And, and I'm so happy that I have offered something out there for all of you to enjoy. And thank you, because, we go to Comic-Con every year, and there's just tons I don't know, thousands and thousands of people. And it started where there were only 500. Now, I don't know. Is there a million? It seems like it to me when I go. And we do a panel every year. And those are grown-ups. I'm not talking about kids. And they just, they want to touch you. It meant so much to them, their lives, when they were a child. And it's amazing. What are you doing?
Touching.
You're touching me. That's Kelly. Kelly was just touching.
Hello, Kelly.
Yeah. And Kelly is for everybody out there. Everybody should have a Kelly. Kelly's
Can we say hello to Kelly?
Yeah. Kelly's my assistant. Kelly.
I don't know.
Hello, Kelly. Come in and say hello. Plastic EP and Vicky. Let's see you. Come in, Kelly.
Oh,
Come on.
I'm never on TV. Hi.
Well, I
Kelly
want to
is
say this
awesome.
to you, Sid,
Yeah.
and I mean this sincerely.
Thank
all right?
you.
This is sincerely from us.
Well, let me
Everywhere.
wait a minute. Are your fingers crossed when you say it?
No.
Okay, it's true. Okay. I just want to know that it's absolutely true. Okay.
Sid, it's absolutely true what I'm about to tell you, and I mean it sincerely from my heart.
Thank you.
I want you to know that every day that you wake up, you don't know how much happiness you bring to the world. And I'm talking about kids today, kids from the 60s, kids from the 70s, and just knowing that you fill people's hearts with enjoyment and happiness every time they watch your shows. I mean, isn't that enough?
Well, yeah, no, it is. But the 60s and 70s, they're grandpas now. So, and they're still watching my little kiddie shows. Wow, that's quite an accomplishment. Yeah, it's crazy. It's great. It's just great. Thank you.
Yeah, but I'm the one that watched it, Sid, because I'm a baby boomer.
Yeah,
Born
but
in
you want to know
58.
something? It's tomorrow in Australia, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's tomorrow. Well, I think, hey, Vicky,
Yeah.
I think you need to take him to a doctor tomorrow. Tomorrow, your time.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, because he's watching kiddie shows. Wow.
Well, I think, Sid, your shows are timeless, so they're going to go on forever and ever. Every generation will be appreciating what we, appreciated back then.
And I love that you had me on. I love Australia.
Well, we can't wait to see you when you come traveling again next time. We'd love to spend some time
Sid,
with you.
put it on your bucket list that when you come to Melbourne, we meet up, because it'll be our honor to come and see you.
Wow, that would be cool. That everybody, I have witnesses out there. Everybody watching, we're going to hold them to that.
You can hold us to account.
Both of you. Yeah. It's not like I live in Hollywood, and there's a lot of we fantasize here in Hollywood, and we exaggerate our stories, but I'm going to believe everything that you say because you're in Australia.
We're Aussies.
That's right.
We're fair dinkum Aussies.
Yeah. And I love Aussies. Thank you so much for having me on.
We thank Sid Krofft, and say a big hello to your brother Marty and send our love to him too. Can you do that, Sid?
Yes, I will.
Thanks again for watching the Plastic EP
and Vicky show.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Australia. Love you.